Hello, everyone. This is Siddhant, and I'd like to welcome all of you to the Tech Talk. Today, I'm joined by my friends Raghav and Gurman, and we're all going to be helping you figure out how you can buy the perfect laptop for your needs and budget. So, to make it easier, let's talk about our own experiences first. What do you guys use your current laptops for? Let's start with Raghav.
I personally use my laptop for editing videos, taking down notes in school, general schoolwork, including reports, presentations, and also coding websites. So most of the advice I'll be giving you will be catered towards specifications for this.
Okay, I mainly use my laptop for entertainment purposes. I'm not like Raghav, I don't do any coding or anything. And in short, I just like watching movies and web series. I also like playing games on web browsers whenever I'm bored, which is like 80% of the time. So yeah, like I like to play chess online or something like that. So yeah, my opinion would basically be towards that side of the spectrum.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I use my laptop currently to play the latest video games along with video editing, graphic design, and 3D animation. So I'm more in that side then. So now that I've mentioned what we currently do, let's talk about what we wish we could do on our laptops. Let's start with Gurma this time.
I think this is, I'm very glad that you asked this very important question. So for me, generally, all I ask from my laptop is that it should work faster. Yeah. It should load
Yeah.
apps. Like when I click the app, it should start instantaneously. It should not take me half an hour for the app to start. So I feel like it should be faster that way. And it should be faster in completing tasks, right? It shouldn't be very slow and like keep loading for half a day. So that's mostly what I'd wish my laptop would do better.
I wish my laptop could do two things, right? Two major things. Firstly, increase my height, and secondly, I want to be able to play more graphically intense games because it's like I don't have a very good GPU myself, so it's a bit of a bottleneck for me in order to play games other than Valorant, Minecraft, League of Legends.
And we'll get into what a GPU is later, by the way. So don't worry, guys. Uh, as I mentioned before, my needs are attracted to requiring more graphical power and speed. So I'd say that's exactly what I would wish from my laptop for. I came prepared this time. Now, according to whatever we all mentioned before, these laptops are the ones I've found which would be perfect for all of us. So let's start talking about what all the stuff after the model means. So we're going to be splitting this up into core components of a laptop, what we think are the most important things to consider when buying a laptop. And those are going to be the processors, RAM or memory, and storage. So how we're going to do this is we're going to spin a wheel. Whatever the wheel lands on, we're going to be talking about that. So spin the wheel. Okay, so it landed on processors. So let's talk about that then.
Thank you, Siddhant, for finding the perfect laptop for us. I look forward to when you pay and get it delivered to my house. Now, for the most part, when you're looking at processors or CPUs or central processing units, when comparing the same generation of processors, Siddhant will be elaborating more on what he exactly means by generations. But if you want to identify it, as you notice on your laptop in the keyboard area, on the bottom right, there'll be stickers on it, right? On that, like mine right now says Intel Core i7 8th gen. That means it's the 8th generation of processors. When you're comparing them within the same generation, the bigger the number is, the better the processor will be. Now, what do I mean by this? An i5 would be better than an i3, and an i7 would be better than an i5. There's also an i9, but you'll find that very rarely in laptops, and most people won't need it for their use cases when you're looking at a laptop itself.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, my main use with my laptop, my dear old laptop, is watching movies and shows, and sometimes playing chess online or on website. I would personally go with an i3 processor because I just feel like I don't have to spend that much money on better processors like an i5 or an i7. But with all of this said, I'd also say that if you have a bigger budget, or you just have a passion for tech, like you want to spend the money on better components just to to have the best experience, although you don't need to, go for it, buy a higher processor. But if you're looking for the best possible option, right, as cheap as possible, something that can just get your work done, you don't want to do anything more fancy, you do just fine with an i3 processor, as long as it's the latest generation.
Yeah, so just for the viewers or listeners, I'll quickly explain what Gourmet means when he said generations. So the company that makes all of these processors is Intel. And what Intel does, release new versions of their i3, i5, and i7 each year, labeling them as generations. So they're currently on the 11th generation, which means they're on the 11th year. And if you're still confused about this or like any of this, just ask the nearest salesman to get you the latest generation, and he should get you the right one.
Now, I agree with whatever Gurmar has said. We tend to underestimate a lot what our technology can use. We feel like, yeah, once I get this new laptop, once I get this new like CPU, this new GPU, whatever, then my workflow is going to increase massively. But like a lot of pro gamers will tell you where they started off. And even me, I used to video edit on an i3 laptop. So just don't underestimate your technology. For me, even though currently I have an i7 right now, because I'm looking for longevity, which we'll be talking about more late in this episode. For my use case of just general gaming, schoolwork, and the occasional video editing, I'd be fine with an i5 processor. If you are passionate about video editing, do it often or possibly even as a career, then it would be better to go with an i7, which Siddhant will talk about more now.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. So for me personally, I went with an i7. That is simply because I need a more powerful processor for video editing and 3D animation. The extra performance also gives me a benefit with the better experience. The CPU is the most important part of the laptop. It's literally called the central processing unit. Uh, Even if you don't have an amazing GPU or a lot of RAM, if you have the budget, I'd say go for the i7 because it will help you with the longevity of your device. It will also give like an overall smoother experience to anything you do with your laptop. We're gonna, now that we've finished processes, let's spin the wheel again. Okay, so it landed on RAM. So in simple terms, RAM is just temporary storage. Modern RAM usually comes in combinations of 4 gigabytes. So we're going to be discussing 8 gigabytes, 12 gigabytes, and 16 gigabytes. Anything lower than 8 gigabytes is not recommended at all for daily use. And anything higher than 16 is going to cost you way more without bringing in the same performance as upgrading from 12 to 16 would have.
Okay, so in my case, I would be perfectly fine with with 8 GB of RAM, right? I don't need to go to 16. I don't need to go to 12 because, being honest, yeah, I don't do anything heavy except like browse Chrome, as I've stated repeatedly. So for me, I think 8 GB of RAM is like sufficient for the tasks I do with my laptop. And being very frank again, I wouldn't have the need to buy a laptop which has 16 GB of RAM or even 12 GB of RAM because it won't help me in any way, right? If I can get my work done with 8 GB, spending more, just like it would feel like a waste of money. And that's something I don't want to do, right? I want to make sure that the money I spend is cost effective and I can get my work done. So I'd be perfectly fine with 8 GB of RAM.
Yeah, that makes sense. Raghav, what about you?
Now, coming to 12 GB of RAM, for me personally, I think having 12 GB of RAM is very odd because you have a 8 GB stick and a 4 GB stick. Why are you doing that? Don't. But like in all seriousness, there's nothing wrong with 12
Wait,
GB
just
of
to
RAM.
clarify, but RAM comes in 2 sticks. So if you're getting 8 gigabytes, it's just one stick of 8 gigabytes. If it's 12, you have to get 8 plus 4, and if it's 16, it's 8 plus 8. So you can continue, Raghav.
Yeah. For the most part, 12 GBs of RAM is for individuals who don't need 16 GB. They don't have a heavy use case for their laptops, but just want to increase how much ever usage they can get from the laptop for how many ever years as possible. It helps for individuals with mid-range use cases because it leaves you a buffer area to not have to burn your laptop out. There's no such thing where 12 GB is the perfect amount for you because like 8 GB of RAM is the minimum you should get, right? If you're just doing browser scrolling on Chrome, it takes a lot of your RAM. But if you're just doing browser scrolling on Chrome, then you should be fine with 8. If you're doing video editing and gaming intensely, then it's better to go with 16, what Siddhant will talk about. But 12 is just for having that extra buffer area. And also note that in most laptops, 90% of laptops, you can add RAM later on. So if this is something that you would be interested in, do your research into your laptop model, see if it's an option for you. Or you can just go all out in the starting with 16 GB. Siddhant will tell you why you might need it.
Which is what I did. So I chose 16 gigabytes. And that comes down to longevity, just as Raghav mentioned before. The need for a higher number of RAM increases every year, but it's still not high enough to warrant anything higher than 16. Which is why I personally think 16 is the best option if your budget is big enough for it. But also do note, just as Raghav said, unlike the rest of the components we discussed today, RAM is upgradable. On most laptops, you can't do it on Macs, but on most laptops it is. Which means even if you start with an 8 GB of RAM in your laptop, it's possible to just further upgrade.
RAM in general just helps you with productivity. If you're someone who multitasks a lot, then it comes in handy because it's all just temporary storage, but we don't need to go into the specifications.
Okay, so as you can see, the wheel wasn't that big. So we spun it twice, and now we land on the last one.
Now coming to storage. So I've personally upgraded recently to an SSD. It might be unbelievable for those of you who know the difference between an SSD and HDD that I've survived so long on it. I would keep getting the not responding message on every single app in the middle of workflow. But like, I don't know, it's just so painful using it.
Just explain what a hard drive and a SSD is.
Yeah, so the main differences when it comes to definitions, an HDD is a hard disk drive and an SSD is a solid state drive. A hard disk drive actually has a spinning part inside that physically processes the data and reads the data by spinning the thing, like how you see in a CD, it spins in the DVD player and it reads data that way. And an SSD is just a solid state drive where there's no moving parts, which is why it's so easy to transfer the data and it's so quick. For me, I used to have to wait 10 to 15 minutes on calls just to get my game to load up, and these guys can testify. They've had to wait for me before they could start playing games. I would spend 30 minutes to just switch my laptop on. Siddhant, I think you might remember that.
I remember back when Raghav used a hard drive, I'd come to his class in break when he just wanted to show me something. And then he ended up just not showing it to me because his laptop would take that long to respond that the break would just end.
Yeah, we didn't eat also, I think. Like, we were just waiting for
just waiting for his laptop to turn on.
let this come.
So all that being said, what storage space would you guys get?
So I think for me, I'd go with a 256 GB SSD because SSD, as Raghav's also mentioned, it provides you with the speed that you need. Yeah, like what he just said about that not responding message that pops up, it hits home. It's very relatable. It happens to me. It happened to me a lot today as well. So I would go with an SSD because 256 GB SSD because it provides me with the speed I need. And since I've talked about that, my use case is mainly Chrome research and like shows and stuff, I don't really need any extra space. So I'm just fine with the extra speed and efficiency.
The need for speed.
Yes, exactly.
So I would get a 512 GB SSD or a combination of a 256 GB SSD and a 1 terabyte hard drive. I currently have a combination on my laptop. So what I do is my operating system and all the main programs which are the heaviest to run or just the ones I use the most, I put them onto my SSD so I don't have to wait too long for it to open up. Like my photos and videos are on a hard drive. Now what having an SSD also does is it also makes your hard drive run better because your hard drive doesn't have to also open apps and also run your operating system at the same time. Your SSD can handle all of that. So yeah, it just makes it much easier for you. And if you need a lot of storage but can't afford a 1 terabyte SSD, I'd suggest you go with this.
Yeah, so another thing I want to state before I give my opinion, SSDs are way more expensive than hard drives. So while you could get a 1 terabyte hard drive for the same price as a 128 gigabyte SSD, I definitely recommend going with an SSD instead, just because of that longevity. So that being said, I'd go with a 1 terabyte SSD. This is because in my case, I need the extra storage as well as the extra speed for video editing, since I'm handling videos so often. It just gives me enough space to work with it. So that being said, we're done with the wheel, which means the end of the video. Thank you for watching. We hope you are more informed and that we helped you make the right decision. Thank you.